Food needs are one of the first and most important needs that you will take care of in Sengoku Dynasty. What makes the best food and the most efficient food for you to use for your villagers depends on a few things. Depends on what workstations can produce resources the quickest and what those recipes are that go with them. So with that, let's look into what the best recipes are. I'll give you my tips for the early recipes, the middle game and late game recipes, and how to get yourself to some of those areas quicker as you go. So as you begin, we look at the idea that our workstations start with a very simple campfire, which you can cook at and make very simple foods. When you make a campfire with a cooking pot, this upgrades a little bit, and you can now make even more recipes. So from the start of the game, you're at least able to make gobo, eggs, and cooked meat and cooked fish, and some basic veggies, which you can find around the area. These two meals will give you 25 food, and these will give you much less. I find that cooked egg is going to be the easiest way to feed your character at the start of the game, just because it's easy to find, and it really doesn't benefit your villagers early on. Your early structures that you can use to build to make are a simple campfire, which again works like a campfire. Sunken hearth, sorry, for your buildings, like the campfire. And then you have the sunken hearth with cooking pot that works just like a campfire with a cooking pot. Now, as we upgrade, we move on to a kitchen, which allows us to make more resources and also allows us to start getting oil out of canola, which is going to now be the more efficient way to get oil in the game. You do have to make this workstation. It is in furniture and it is production furniture, and when you go to your kitchen, when you unlock it, you will need to build the oil press. It does not show up automatically in the structure. And then from there, it's 3-to-1 to make oil from canola and water. The cooking pot is a larger workstation that allows you to get a number of meals. It does not allow you access to excellent meals. Excellent meals are hidden behind the tavern, but otherwise you have access to a lot of other recipes, although a lot of these other recipes pale in comparison to the simple cooked rice. When we end up with a tavern, we end up with a big pot cooking station, and this is it. This is the end. We get all of the recipes we could possibly have made and all of the excellent meals, which at least one excellent meal per category, per protein, whether it be fish or tofu from veggies or meat. One of these meals is always hidden behind either an unlock or a quest. Gaining access to your resources is as simple as either having a forager's workplace to gather some resources. It'll always be less efficient than something that does the job for like plants in a field, for example. When you have fields, you will get a lot more crops than you could have from a forager's workplace. The hunter's workstation is not the most efficient, but it is the only way for you to get meat with a villager worker. Then we have the fishing hut, which is the single most efficient way to get yourself protein, and is what's going to lead into my discussion of that fish is the best protein to go with. In order to have these working stations function, you need to have straw, which leads to you making rope, which then allows you to make fishing nets. And you can make these workstations around your village if you need, or craft them all in your workshop. And as you can see here, you can organize things in a way that makes it a mass-producing center. I have 6 workstations inside this building and 2 out of it. That is a mess of workstations, and it will produce quite a bit of fish. Now, as to what is the most efficient way to get your meals made, what are the best meals for you to get for your people in your village? Well, let's get into that. And with that, we're going to have to jump into spreadsheets. If you're familiar with the spreadsheet I started a while back, that was all of the recipes that you can get in Sengoku Dynasty organized so you can know how much it costs and where you can make it and what it gives you for your workers. If we go back to that idea about the cooked gobo and the cooked meat, these don't provide you with a lot of needs. That cooked egg is not going to help your villagers eat, but it takes care of 10 food needs and it's really easy to get by. Here's the gold space we want to be. Cooked rice is just simply the best. It is just simply the best. 40 needs for your villagers. We'll get back to that. This is the only issue. It's unlocked, or it's hidden behind being able to have a cooking pot. You'll notice that this is colored in green because this is a recipe here that requires this same cooked rice, so that you can see the cost going into this, where this says it's, 1 fish, 1 cooked rice, 1 koji mold. But really what that is 1 fish, 10 rice, 1 water, 1 koji mold, because you had to make the cooked rice. Same story here, where we have to make miso out of 10 soybeans, 1 water, and 1 koji mold. And then once we have miso, we can make miso soup. Same thing with tofu, where we need 12 soybeans and 1 water to make tofu, which then allows us to make dengaku, and that costs us 1 tofu, 5 vegetables, and a stick. We also have unlock costs for a number of these. Anything that says no unlock requirement means that you simply have it from the start of the game. I have never recalled when I unlocked Nazarazushi, just because I keep finding it in chests, so I don't know what the cost is. I always end up finding it. And here are those 2 veggie meals that are free, and you can make with anything at all. Now, what makes a recipe the most efficient, and why do I say cooked rice is the best? Well, we gotta whoa, and we gotta figure out how much we can make in our different areas. And by the way, these spreadsheets are going to be in the comments in the description of this video. And when you click on it, it's going to make a copy for you so you can click on and edit all of these things. If I make edits to these spreadsheets later, I'll let you know and you can make a new copy, or I'll just let you know what those are. So when you click on here, you'll be able to change the number of fields you have worked so you can get an exact output. And when you notice up here, productivity changes the amount of fields that can be worked, which means slots go from 20 to 21 to 22 to 23. All right, well, 320 cereal or rice per rice field is huge because you always get koji mold with it, and you might have noticed that there are things out there that require koji mold. I do have some things here which I talked about in the farm video. If you haven't seen that video, please do check it out so you know what the whole growth rate is about and the yields are about for you. But what we're going to use here is just a comparison to see what is going to help us make this more efficient. Land fields, obviously here we are as well, where when we think about canola, canola is, obviously, it is our source of beans for oil, which is the best. Oh look, the graphics keep wandering. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll just get rid of the graphics. Now, the forager's workplace is the least efficient area to get resources from, but that doesn't mean it's not a source we need. For example, there are some recipes that are going to call for meat, and this is the first reason why I'm going to say hunting isn't worth your time. 33 food is nothing as far as villagers are concerned. You're going to want to do most of this on your own, or just be ready for the fact that it's not the most efficient route to get food. We're getting twice as much out of fishing, and I can fit way more workstations there. So for me, fishing is just the way to go. You do need a water source, but all you need is 1 village with that water source in your set. It's going to turn out that oil from fish is no longer as efficient, and it used to produce the exact same amount as you got out of fish. It's changed now so that this is a little less efficient than it used to be. And obviously, you can grow herbs in a field a lot more effectively. It's only 50 for this one. Well, all of my land fields that involve herbs are getting me 260. So it's just simply not worth your worker to spend them on this. You do not have a choice here because this is the only source of a villager getting edible mushrooms and poisonous mushrooms for medicine. Also berries. So, let's look at some of those recipes and let's get this set so we know exactly what the best ones are. Cooked rice, that is the one you're aiming for. You want to get to cooked rice as soon as possible because all it costs you is 10 rice and 1 water. Water is going to be gotten through having wells. You're going to get a large collection of water out of the advanced or the simple well. The advanced well is better, obviously. Once you have water, you're going to have a large collection of it. If you want to buy it from vendors, it's incredibly cheap, and rice is also very cheap to buy from vendors. And also, you're making 320 of this for every single worker. If you end up with 4 fields, which is really nice, then we're talking about 128 cooked rice out of this. And you have koji mold sitting around ready for you to use. Very, very efficient. Now, I would say that the rest of the recipes don't necessarily improve from here because they're so expensive, where miso soup seems good, 55 and 55, but miso is 10 soybeans, 1 water, 1 koji mold. You need a rice worker, soybean worker, and then you need to have extra vegetables in order to make this worthwhile. It's fun, but it's not really worthwhile. Tempura is, excellent. 1 fish, we're making 67 per workstation, and you saw how many workstations we have. 6 cereal, rice counts as a cereal, and also cereals are the biggest producers. So they're the ones that kick out the most, aside from fibers, from our workstations. So when we think about getting 6 cereal, that's not hard. We can get that easily. 1 oil is the problem. We don't necessarily want to have to make a lot of this, but if you have a worker or 2 in the summertime making canola, then it's 3 to 1. You can easily get a massive stack of oil and just store it through the seasons. In the early game, I'm going to say that you're probably going to be stuck making your simple meals for your early quest lines. just because they give you 25 food and they're easy to do. 5 vegetable and 3 herb is good, but the one with bean is better because beans are cheaper. And I do think that you can make these with ease by just buying from Chiyomi, and I'll show you that in a bit. Lastly, the best meals that you're going to make at the end of the game, well, it's tempura, because you're stuck waiting until the tavern for this one. And I also believe that you will find that the excellent fish meal that you get from Rujin's Wrath, 10 beans. Beans are produced at a massive amount as well. Soybeans come out as 320. And Lotus is not really worth the bean route. You're going to want to work soybeans in the springtime. That's our biggest limiter, is that it only is plantable in the spring. But this is going to be the most effective way to get lots of meals out of fish. 2 to 1 for fish is not bad, and honestly, since we have so many workstations, this can outdo this one because of the amount of farming workers I don't have to have. I'm going a lot further with this, since I can always get rice easily. The best meal, hands down, is this, because once you get this from the Wild Hogs quest, which is found in Segi, 4 rice is simple, 2 edible mushrooms. All of your workstations that you have for Forager's Hut are going to allow you to get mushrooms at different times of the year, and you get 76 per, which is 38 meals. That's pretty good. It's not bad, and it only costs you 1 worker. It's not bad at all, and it's a lot of need. I don't think it outdoes tempura, but not having to make oil is handy. Alright, so that is our setup for what are the best meals. It starts off with just whatever you can get and then make the simple veggie meals, and I'll show you how to do that rapidly. And then it goes on to saying it's cooked rice. It's just cooked rice as soon as you can get a cooking pot, and I'm going to show you how to get there real quick. And then it moves on to tempura and our excellent meals once we finally get to the tavern. But we're waiting a while to get to that point. So here we are in a new game. Let's go to Chiyomi and let me show you how this early part of the game goes. Alright, it is a little later, and I have already gotten through building the first house, building the storage, and that is from gathering logs and sticks from the area. We also built our first workbench, and what's going to happen from there, from our workbench, is we're going to make a land field. We're going to make any field of any size you want. It does not matter. We just need to unlock a couple things here. Once we've done that, we can now produce the best weapons, or the best things to sell in the game. Let's make a bunch of wooden hoes, and we'll bring them up to Chiyomi and sell them, and then I'll show you where we go from here. Unlocking the wooden hoe also gets you a few decorations you can do. It is also worth noting that while we're here, we're going to make a shovel or 2 because we're going to need those. This is what's going to propel us from our simple beginning to all the way to the Iron Age as fast as possible. From here, we're running up to there to talk to Chiyomi, who is the Shinto princess who is nearby Sasogi. If you've been gathering up a lot of rocks and a lot of sticks, for example from here, from bushes, anywhere around you, you can also craft some stone adzes. And then when we go to her, we'll press F to trade, and let's just get her all of the extra hoes that we built and adzes that we had. Now, you'll see that we have a lot of access to beans. I have access to rice, more beans, and I have access to gobo seeds, and the rice bag. Now we may not have the money quite yet, but again, we can just keep making and selling these things. Now we have access to rice. We now have access to making rice with a worker. All we need to do now is buy that, and we'll sell off 1 more shovel, so we got a little cash on hand. From here, we can go back and make more of these tools. I can buy any of these out that I want to. I've got access to herbs for cheap. And look at this, I can buy a stack of 25 for 5 gold. I can buy a collection of tea leaves for cheap as well. Now, when we're here, we're in this area, I want you to make sure you have your shovel with you, because we're going to need that clay over there. We're going to gather clay, and then we are going to make water fields, and we are going to be able to produce rice within the first day. Make sure you gather a bit of these up. You just need to find the small clay resources, and then you can press E, or you can just dig with your shovel, whatever works most effectively for you and most efficiently. Keep in mind that it takes 1 clay per worker slot. That means we are going to need a decent amount, and while we're out here, I'd say gather what you can. I'll see you back in the village. If you don't mind where we place this field, then we can put it wherever we wish. And we're going to want to have at least 20. That's going to get us the maximum we can get out of our workers in the early part of the game. We can also go straight to 24 to be sure that we have it all. When we do this, we can then put our seed bag into the storage, and then we'll have a worker who's able to interact with this. Once we have Akko as a worker, I assign her to the field, and now we are already going to be producing 320 rice this first day, as long as we got her in this working slot before the afternoon. If we didn't, then tomorrow she'll produce 320 rice, which is going to turn into 32 cooked rice. She's going to eat a bit of it though, so that will be an issue. We would normally have 320. For the next part of our journey, we're going to need some shovels. Let's make some shovels, and then it's time to overland hike it to our next destination. We're going to go all the way to Iwasaki. Now, to get there, simply, we're going to travel eastward. We can travel along the road and just dodge bandit camps, but we need to end up somewhere over here. I decided to cook up some of these gobo, and the reason for this is so that I can prevent my worker, Akko, from eating all of our rice right away at the start. This should allow us to gather more of our rice and less of it be consumed. And keep in mind that with your population, you can tell them what they can and can't eat. So if you want to tell your person, hey, you don't get to eat the rice that you are harvesting so that we can keep it for meals, uncheck it. You'll notice then that it says she's going to eat 30 meals. We have 39 in storage. We're good. And when we go inside of this mine, and by the way, there is somebody in this town who has a quest that will ask us to gather ore in here. We could easily go find him. As we go in here, we are going to look for deposits on the walls. It's getting to be nighttime here, so it's dark for me. There's one. Just press E on it with your shovel, and we are already harvesting. There's another one. So as we go through this mine, any small deposits of iron we can find, shovel them out, and then we are sitting on our own stockpile of iron. Early game. There we go. A couple more for this. And now, since we're in Iwasaki, as long as we have some coin, we can fast travel home. We are back and we have iron and we have the ability to build the smithy. So let's build the smithy anywhere we can. And now the trick is you need enough logs and enough resources to do that. Once you have your smithy, and I have a whole video about how to skip to the Iron Age shown here, please do check that out if you'd like to see the whole process of getting the iron ore from the start. But short story is, make yourself a workshop, make yourself a shovel, just like we did before, and then take that shovel and run off to Iwasaki and go into the mines. All we need now is 200 coins in order to get ourselves the last piece of the puzzle. Now, if you are short on coin, if you need more coin, then the best thing you can do is find some vendors and you can sell them wooden shovels. Turns out she only had enough money for me. So from here, we're just going to go back. Now that we sold a bunch of adzes and hoes to her, we are going to head on back to our village and we're going to get to a smithy, make our iron pot, and then we are set for all the time. Alright, now that we're back here, we've got 200 coins. We're going to unlock this recipe, and 10 of our iron is spent on making ourselves a cooking pot, which we can now head back into here, and with our hammer out, we can change this into a cooking pot with hearth. We'll need some firewood, and that's about it. Okay, now we could have made this a cooking pot workplace, but that cost us 200 coins, so let's not bother. Here we go. We made this thing, and now, oh my, we have 10 rice per, and we have water. You know, all that water is just from the early quest lines. Make yourself a well as soon as you can, drop some water buckets down there, and then after your first water bucket, you will have 50 water, and we will be all set that we can make this cooked rice meal and show you just how much we end up with. And now, with the first bucket done, we have 50 water. 50 water, well, we only need 1 water per. We can make all 32 of these cooked rice, and then we are going to be done worrying about food needs for essentially the whole early and middle part of this game. We essentially can just make do with using cooked rice as the way to sustain our villagers all the way until we have the tavern. And that will be a while, but this will work for the whole time up until there. If you want to diversify what your people make, by all means do so. Otherwise, this does the job quite well. With our rice in the storage here, when we check about how many needs we have, 1,315, and I'm only consuming 30 meals per day. These things do spoil, so you do want to keep a mindful eye on that. But when you need to make food for your villagers, I think this is the way to go. By all means, check out my video on getting the Iron Age quick if you want to see the route that you do to get there. And keep in mind that the shovel is really all you need, and you can gather up the small tin deposits, the small copper deposits, and the small iron deposits while you travel. And then I recommend going to Iwasake right away. You can get overland pretty easily, just run away from all the enemies, and then go into that mine, gather up as much iron as you can, come back here, get your clay, make that cooking pot, put it into one of your houses, or put it on a campfire, and you're done. And that is it. Congratulations, you now have your food situation set up for all of the early game with the best meals, and you know what the best meals coming up later are. Thank you for taking time to watch this, and take care until next time.